Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. I seriously have indeed missed you. We've been doing some beautiful renovation to serve you better and make sure that we don't lose one single day anymore. And I want to say thank you very much to everyone that shared their thoughts, reached out to us, and had to ask questions. I want to say thank you. And to everyone that sent good contribution from topics that have gone, from discussions we've had earlier onwards. So I want to say thank you very much. This is SOUQ Pulse, where we look each other in the eye and tell some basic truths. Truth to you, facts to others, arguments to a whole lot of other people, and matters that just stay up in the air and wait for good discussion at a later date. So wherever divide you choose to stand, we'll tell you this particular premise. Don't stop talking. Don't keep quiet. So we'll play our hands and check the pulse. Is it good? Our business is doing well. Is it really true that Africa is the hunger capital of the world? That's a false. But we'll still talk about it. Is it really true that the loans taken from IMF, World Bank, is not doing Africa any good? We'll talk about it. How is IMF saying it? How is IMF seeing that their policy, better the ones they are asking of the African countries or the one African countries are trying to implement to favor the loans they are getting? Wherever junction you need to stop, we talk. Our business is doing good, we talk. Our policies from governments coming in and those leaving, really making sure that the man on the street trying to work is getting paid commensurate to the work he's doing, or is the man that is asking for more salary not productive at all? We talk because it's SOUQ Pulse, your program, and we sit here and tell every one of us, let's talk. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. Today we are going to continue a particular discussion that has been front burner on SOUQ News. For a while, if you've been watching this particular station, you will recognize that of a truth, food, agriculture has been in the front burner. And it's serious. Not just for anything. It is very serious. A country or a continent that can't feed itself is a slave to others that give it food. So we have to talk. Today we are looking at this part of agriculture that most people really don't take it serious. We just talk over it. We profile a whole lot of solutions, look for a whole lot of money, look for a whole lot of technocrats, but the first part of it, we don't get to talk about it enough. Now, people are shouting and saying that urban-rural migration is at its peak. Those leaving Africa and heading to the West, be it through legal or illegal migration, be it through famine, wars, are at its peak. The West is gaining, yes. Africa at a particular point will also get to gain, be it repatriation of some amount of funds. But now let's face this particular thing. For those that are living in the cities, for those that are living in those particular big towns that have left the villages, left those particular places where the land is endless, for those that are in white-collar jobs, for those that are very busy, that don't even know what it looks like to be in a farm, for those that are finding it difficult to even spell the word farm, or those that don't even know what agriculture means in the first place. That is what we are dealing with today, and we are asking this particular question. Can the city boy, the city girl, the city man, the city woman, the sophisticated person, how can they get involved in agriculture? Because if we say we need to feed ourselves, everyone must get involved in one way or the other. So we are making it simple. How can the city boy, the city girl get involved in agriculture? Growing up, we used to have this Young Farmers Club. For those of you that grew up in the 80s and the 90s, let me not go 70s because let's don't go that far. Now we had Young Farmers Club. We had several other clubs that made agriculture very fashionable. So it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter which of the cities, it doesn't matter what your job was. You got involved in one way or the other. So we are going to come up and argue and talk about this. You that is listening to me from the 20th floor of a big commercial bank, you that is on one beautiful oil rig right now or flying a plane somewhere, you that is balancing some sheets somewhere in an accountant firm, I'm talking to you. You exactly that is in one cleaning service, one consultancy service, you that is in one hospital, you that is offering one service or the other, or you that is in a mechanic village, or you that is in a market somewhere in Balogun, in trade fair, somewhere in Kenya, somewhere in Kigali, how can you get involved in agriculture? You might be looking and be asking some particular questions. Today, you might find answers if you listen very well. Or you can argue and find answers by yourself. To do justice to this particular topic for today, I have an in-house analyst, a friend of the house, and an agric entrepreneur, someone that has stood himself out over a period of time. He's not just been a leader when it comes to agriculture in Nigeria, but also in some other parts of Africa, East Africa to be precise. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, joining us via Zoom, it's Emmanuel Abushson. He happens to be a CEO. Let's leave the company for now because we will get directly into that company later in the day, break it down, and tell you who to hold responsible when your questions of getting involved in agriculture are not well answered. So, Ima, you're welcome to SOUQ Pulse today.
Thank you, sir. It's nice to be here once again, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Now, today on SOUQ Pulse, we are going beyond government give me this, government give me that. Government responsible for this, government not responsible that. We're now looking ourselves in the mirror and asking ourselves, okay, now, me that is here in the studio, how can I get involved? How can Tony Elumelu, that it's somewhere there in the hairs holding a CEO, how can he get involved? How can Dangote get involved? Now, they might have their big major farms and sponsors of good. Those, every other strata of the society, those playing their major roles, doing good work, how can we get involved? That's where we are going to today. So I asked you this particular question. Can the city boy get involved in farming?
Definitely. First of all, agriculture has nothing to do with geographical location. Matter of fact, the reason why we have market shocks around food and then our food crisis today is because we left agriculture for those in the rural areas, and agriculture has nothing to do with geography. Agriculture is for everyone. I will still say that in Nigeria, I think as civil servant, one of the business you can directly get involved in without without being sanctioned is agriculture. So city boys, city girls, the Gen Zs can get involved in agriculture, and we are looking at even the city boys participating in agriculture more because that is when we can have agriculture that is driven by knowledge, driven by information, and we can now have it more better. And for me, I studied mass communication. I was into the media space before I got into agriculture because I listened to I met someone that changed my perspective to what agriculture should be. She was 25 years old. She was 25 as at when I met her, and she had 25 hectares of farm. 25 hectares of farm in New Zealand, and she was telling me about agriculture. But this was me that I grew up in a house where my father was a farmer, my mother was a farmer, but I never wanted to do anything about agriculture because I felt agriculture is a business for the poor until I get to start seeing that agriculture actually it's a business that also involves skill. The way we have professional doctors, the way we have professional teachers, the way we have professionals in the way we have professions having their professionals in their space. It's also how we need professionals in the agricultural space to make it better. So the city boy, the city girl, actually had to be in agriculture, need to join agriculture, need to farm. And when you're talking about agriculture or talking about farming, we're not just talking about production. We're also looking at all the value chain. And with the advent of technology, agriculture is going beyond soil farming. We're also talking about soilless farming currently, and we have young people who are driving these innovations. It's for agriculture is for everybody, regardless your location, regardless your geographical location, regardless the weather condition of those places. Because if you talk about weather, we're looking at Egypt, Israel that have harsh conditions, Botswana that have harsh conditions, even Rwanda, where I have my farm, we have short rainfall compared to Nigeria. But everyone, so geography has nothing to do with it. Rather, technology, it's changing the narrative. So agriculture is for everybody.
Agriculture is for everybody. I hope you heard that directly from a practitioner's mouth. Agriculture is for everybody. Now, I picked something out from when you said the person that got you interested and pushed you into this particular space a lady. I guess she must be a very beautiful lady. And at that particular point in time, she was 25 years old and had 25 hectares of, of land. Now, I'm not asking you how old you are, but if at 25 she had 25 hectares of land, hope you know that whatever your age is, you have to have that amount of hectares that is working, right? Okay. So that should be like the premise. That should be like more of it's a point where we're all heading to and are getting started. Now, let me ask you before we keep going. Is farming profitable?
Very profitable. Farming is one business that you do that I would say that is at 50% sometimes returns. It's the blood money for me. So when you grow your food, it's like you are printing your own money. When you grow your food, it's like you're printing your own money. So agriculture is very, very profitable. Reg- every line of the production chain is very productive, from production, processing down to distribution. So agriculture is very, very profitable. It's one of the most profitable business in the world. And uh, for us to understand how profitable agriculture is, we need to look at our leaders. The former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, is a big time farmer. So if it's not profitable, it's not going to be involved in agriculture. And one time, I also want to make reference to Nyanko, Muritala Nyanko, the former governor of Adamawa State. He's a very big farmer. In fact, his son is also big in farming, in agriculture. Agriculture is seed, and it gives you multiple seeds. It gives you multiple harvests. So agriculture is very, very profiting. When you take a look at every side of the value chain.
Okay. Agriculture is very profitable. Now we've established that everybody should get involved and agriculture is profitable. Now let's get back to this particular mindset. At what point in time did we form that mindset that agriculture should be left for those in the village or it should be left for the aged? At what point in time did our mind shift, get to that point where we became irresponsible?
Okay, it was at the time where we had the oil boom. When we had oil, just like an average every Nigerian, we like the sweet soft spot. So when there was oil boom, we left agriculture. We forgot about our pyramids, our granite pyramids, our cocoa pyramid. We forgot about our oil plantation. We forgot that we were the one that gave Malaysia their first seedlings for their oil palm. We left those things that made our agriculture and focus on oil. And as at that time was when we also had the Odoji Award, where civil servants were collecting salaries ahead of time during Yakubu Gowon, the former head of the Republic of Nigeria. And even currently, when you look at after the breakthrough in the fintech industry, many young people, many young investors still looking at fintech, still forgetting about agriculture. Like I said, Nigerians, we like the sweet soft spot. This is profiting. Everybody run into it. By the time they get burnt, they go start looking for other alternatives. So it left agriculture when oil first of all became a boom, and when we felt like we want more white collar job. Our parents started telling us, go to school, get your degree, get a job, so that you can be like that white man. Because of the white man, life seems to be better than their lives. And we left our history, we left our culture to start chasing what was given to us. And then the media was not doing a good job. The media kept painting agriculture as a sector that is driven by poverty. So when you look at every of our media publication about agriculture, so they show us an old man who lives in a rural area with a whole lot of cutlass. That was a picture of agriculture that we have. And even down to date, when you take a quick look at agriculture in Africa, you see agriculture that's driven by manpower. But when you take a look at agriculture in the Western culture, like in the Western culture in Denmark, for example, Denmark, Switzerland, you see agriculture that is driven by machines. So this is where we started. That is where we left agriculture and start chasing the white collar job and wanted to be more corporate, and forgetting that agriculture is first. Even most of these companies that we're trying to work for, agricultural produce is their first primary resources. So let's say, for example, we do Korea in Africa. Switzerland has the chocolate company, processing company. We have rice, but we still import rice and all of that. So we left it because of what the media was painting to us, and also there was an oil boom. So we started drifting. We left our culture, we left our history to start chasing things that we think are the ideal, and gradually our history started becoming like meat to us. So when you talk about there was one time Grano Pyramid in Kano. It's currently becoming like a mint. Like, does that really ever exist? A country currently that is battling with food crime.
Okay. Now, since Nigerians and Africans have gone in search of white collar jobs, and in quotes, they are being paid well, and in quotes, they have the white collar jobs, and also in quotes, they are living lives well, can we say we should continue importing food? Can we keep importing agricultural products since that is what we're doing already? And the continents and their countries are going down the drain. So can we just continue that cycle of importing food?
Okay, so let's look at the commodities we currently have at the foreign market. We talk about the oil, we talk about talent because we have been having more of brain drain currently. Like agriculture is still one of the greatest products we have to export. So when we keep importing, what happens to our currency? Now everybody's complaining that Naira is struggling in the market, and what do we have to sell at the international market? We still have to come back to agriculture. How long are we going to import? Now we consume over 3 million tons of wheat, and we barely produce 60,000, 100,000 tons of the same wheat. Now it's lately that we're looking at producing at 1.2 million tons, which started last year, November, flagged off by the Minister of Agriculture. So, how much do we have to import? Now, if we have so much to import, we're talking about food crisis. Over 23 million Nigerians suffering severe food hunger. So, if we keep importing, in fact, with our importation, we are currently importing over $1 billion dairy products. And for a country where we have herders and farmers having clash every now and then, so no matter how much the white collar job is paying, let's even take a very quick look at inflation in the market with food inflation. How much is your salary? How much food can you buy? That is why we're talking about food crisis. So we don't import, and rather we need to start looking at farming our food ourselves. With over 50% of our land being arable compared to other African countries, over 50% of our land being arable. Then see the same land, over 50% of this land is unused. So we need to come back to agriculture and again drive agriculture by young people. And we need to start addressing the bottlenecks around our policies. A lot of our policies are it's a big barrier for young people to participate in agriculture. Talk about policy, we talk about access to resources. When I talk about access to resources, I'm talking about access to land and finance. Then we also talk about perception issues, where I believe that the media can do a good job because the media is about setting agenda. So the media we need to start and priming stories that will get young people to get engaged in agriculture. And basically, this is what a company is currently doing. How we can start producing agricultural TV shows that will encourage young people. A matter of fact, we are on it currently. The first agricultural TV show that is set to draw youth attention into agriculture, and also we also look at access to funding, how we can start financing young people to get access to get agriculture because agriculture. We're talking about government. It requires to invest in agriculture. Tractor, rent a tractor today is at 100,000 naira per day, and a tractor can only do maximum five hectares per day. So these are things we need to look at. No matter how much we have to import, the food inflation currently in the market is really telling on us. People are hungry because we don't produce enough, and what we have cannot even import as much as we need. So it's not okay that we have white collar jobs and we should not get into agriculture. We should start importing. We can do more and do better.
We can do more and do better. Okay, now, is it possible that we pick a cane and start flogging ourselves to get some sense into our heads? Before we ask this particular question, why are young people running away from the very first profession that the Creator gave them? I think that was more like the first assignment given to man: till the ground and take care of the animals and take care of the garden. For those
Definitely.
of you that believe that setting. So that was more like the first assignment. So why are young people running away from that assignment that should take care of them?
Yeah. So I need to look at barriers. The barriers that these are barriers that young people face when they want to get into agriculture. Like I mentioned earlier, we talk about perception issue. Growing up, like I said, I never want to be a farmer. I never wanted to be a farmer because I felt my family was poor because my father was a farmer. Maybe if he had a job, he could have been. So perception. We need to address perception. That is first. That's number one. Number two, also look at policies. Our government make too much mouth and invest little in agriculture. Naira was invested in Anchor Bros program. How many of these funds targeted young people? It's a very big question we need to answer. That's one. Then we also need to look at access access to funding and resources, like access to resources, land and finance, like I mentioned earlier. Currently, my company we're trying to push a policy, and we hope to get the government attention that every young Nigerian should have the right land use between 3 to 4 months, maybe maximum 6 months life cycle. I can invest. This will encourage young people. It's capital intensive who don't have access to funds. When you look at currently the interest rate, we're talking about 26% per annum. That's quite high. Young people cannot afford it.
You that is the white collar person, you that is in the market, you that is closing deals left, right, center, importing containers from you know where. How can you get into agriculture? That's what we're talking about today, because all hands must be on deck. We can't spend the entire money we are making importing food and going to the market to buy the same food and yet come back to complain that the dollar is not smiling. So we have Emmanuel Abushson, and he is here doing justice to this particular question. So Emma, let's leave where we are going, where we were. Now we are heading to some other place. Now I'm asking this directly. Our school system, has it positively or negatively impacted agricultural practice in Nigeria?
Think it has been more negative from the primary secondary, especially secondary sector, where when you commit crime, especially maybe some rural areas and urban centers, when you commit crime, they tell you that your punishment is to go and maybe weed, clear bush, go and cultivate a particular size of land. So it makes it look like, okay, it's like punishment. So we see agriculture like punishment, and especially when our school system talk about maybe farm club, agricultural clubs, they were using more of cutlasses, holes, which is manpower. So we were seeing it, especially myself. Like let me say myself, when I was in secondary school, I was in the agri club, but it was more like a punishment because we are using manpower. And when they want to punish us for any offense, they take us to the school field to serve a punishment. So we started seeing agriculture from a negative point of view. Then down to our parents, when we want to go to university, and I had a particular friend that got admission to study agriculture, and she received the biggest insult of her life from her parents. Like, of all the courses in the world, it is agriculture you went to apply for. So this is not actually helping us, and because of how will I say, you can't give what you don't know. Actually, they grew up with parents that were were using manpower to farm, and they limited us within that same scope. You know, there are no facilities, no machineries for us to even sit to motivate us to get into agriculture. We only talk about tractor on paper, on textbook. We only talk about tractors on when we draw it on the board. We never saw what a tractor looked like all our days in secondary school. Not even excursion. Now, when we talk about excursion, these are things that motivate young people. When you talk about excursion, how many of these schools take students to go for excursions on farms? How many of them take them to excursions to go to Ministry of Agriculture to even see what a tractor look like? Perhaps maybe even get on the tractor, see what it looks like, the components. Okay, this is a Paula, this is a Rija, what it looks like. So no motivation. So our school has not done enough to motivate young people to get into agriculture.
Not done enough to motivate young people to get into agriculture. Okay, now let's take this further. Should we make agriculture as a subject a compulsory in secondary school, primary schools, and not just an elective in high institutions, but something just like English? Everyone studies English in the higher institution, one way or the other, whether you're taking it as an elective or something, you jump somewhere in one faculty or the other. Should we make agriculture to be the same kind of subject in African schools?
Yes, I think for primary and secondary, I think agriculture is compulsory. Agriculture is compulsory. Yes, I did agriculture in JSS1 down to SS3. So it's compulsory. Like I said, we just need to make it more attractive. Like schools should start creating maybe excursions around farms. Take them to a dairy farm, a big dairy farm. Let them see what it looks like. Let young people get to see how it looks like to milk a cow and process it to other byproducts. They need to see what a cow looks like in a ranch. They need to go to a farm to see how tractors cultivate the cultivation using tractor, not just growing up to see their parents class and seeing their when you go to villages. Sometimes you cannot if you are if you grow in the village, sorry, in the city, and you come to the village, you'll be surprised to see that farmers are synonymous in dressing to like the mad people you see on the street in the streets of in your street in the city. So and you don't want to become like that man, like with rags, with his hoe and cutlass going to farm. You don't want to be like that. So this we need to start having excursions that young people go to the farm and start seeing agriculture in a better perspective. There's a particular movie I saw called The Walk. The young boy saw someone walking on a rope, and he was like, he's going to walk on a rope from that is the the twin tower in New York. Like, okay, that became his dream because he saw someone doing it. So we need to start having young people see agriculture in a more modernized form. When we talk about agri-tech, we talk about production. So there are many aspects, there are many value chain that we need to start getting our young people to start saying so that we don't get them stuck that agriculture is limited to whole and cutlass to that man in the village.
Agriculture is not limited to whole and cutlass, just you've said. Now let's look at urbanization. Has urbanization impacted agriculture positively or negatively?
Now, urbanization for many of us is because we felt like we have suffered so much in the village and we want to go get what white collar job. So when our brothers and sisters are coming from the city, they come in a big car. They are looking quite nice. They speak good English. They live. We assume they live well. Maybe they bring spaghetti. They bring Maggie. They bring some things that we don't have in the village, and we felt like, oh, we need to go to the village. I like the way their kids speak good English, and we want to be like them. Sometimes those in the rural areas have more resources in terms of cash. Some of them have houses of their own, no matter how bad it is. Them don't have the kind of bills and expenses. When we just suppose our expenditure and our income, sometimes some of us in the cities cannot boast. We can't talk anyhow in the village. There's a particular farm we are consulting for in Taraba. The man had 20 million naira cash under his bed. And when you look at him, there's nothing amazing about him to want to motivate you to be like him. So, but there's this notion that when you go to the city, things might get better. And when most of them move from the rural centers to the urban centers, they become motorcyclists, they become tricyclists. Unemployment rate. I was talking about unemployment rate of 20 to 30% because of rural urban migration. Now they get to the urban centers, they keep complaining that there are no jobs and all of that, leaving their farms and their businesses, agro businesses in the village. So like I keep saying, one of the things we need to start doing is how we can integrate urban culture into rural settlement so that the migration will quite reduce and it's easier for cash flow and also knowledge transfer. So we can bridge that gap. So urbanization is just like more for most of these rural people as an how will I put it? It's an illusion that if they get to the city, most of them like if I get to Lagos, life will be better. It's like there's this Lagos life that everybody want to get into, to living their primary life aside, and then you now see them start struggling, get into other social vices that are not necessary compared to what they had in the village.
Now let's go back to our topic. Let's go to the crux of our topic and now start seeking solutions. Now, for those that are gainfully employed in the urban cities, for those that are working in the banks, those that are in the oil rigs, those that are in those particular jobs that take their full time 9 to 5 or before 9 or after 5 and are getting paid whether well, major or not well, how can they get involved in agriculture? How can they key in? How can they be where they are and still get some form of, I won't call it investment, but some real agriculture going on somewhere? How can they key in?
All right. So basically, most of the agricultural scheme that has failed had had many components. You know, the first thing we did when I got into agriculture and especially agrofinancing, one of the first thing I did was to take a study and see why is agribusiness failing. Like how will I put it? An autopsy of dead agro investments. So it has a lot of components, which is making a lot of people afraid that okay, maybe if I invest my money, am I not going to get my returns back? Is because most of the people that run this investment scheme had never managed such kind of revenue, such kind of funds before, and most of them had no financial advisors, no financial manager. They are the accountant of their company, they are the financial manager, they are the broker, they are the marketer, they are everything. So they're often limited by their own knowledge and make sometimes unwise decisions because maybe lack of data and all of that. So their businesses fail, and it now become like maybe this is a normal. It become like normal, not like normal with agricultural investment. However, this is what I would say. For example, with if someone who is earning well in number city in a number city and cannot have access, maybe don't have the time for agriculture, can do probably agro funding. Now we have a scheme where we have farmers that we get investment, we get this funds and give to them in a very good interest rate. And now the investors know that yes, this is the little they're going to be getting from their investment, but it's going to be constant and it's not going to fail. Even better than having it in the bank. So you can do agro funding, 50,000 naira sometimes, 50,000 naira, 100,000 naira with 3 months, 4 months, 6 months return of investment is there. And if you want to do commodity trading where you have people trade for you, you can be having your revenue sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly. So now you look at like no, I mentioned earlier, we have the production, we have three. I want to put agriculture in three pillars: production, processing, and distribution. So if you want to get involved in, if you don't have time to get involved in production, you might have the time to get involved in processing. If you don't have the time for processing, can maybe distribution. Or perhaps agro funding, agro financing. You can lend to farmers. You do more like what I call contract farming. So you can have grains without necessarily you being on the farm. So they do the farm for you on contract base. Currently, there's one of my clients. I'm managing a farm. She does not know where the farm is. All she does is she finance, we do the farm, and she gets her returns. So these are ways you can get involved in agriculture. In any of the value chain, or you simply do funding, micro funding. Sometimes if you don't have too much capital, you can do micro funding, and you'll be amazed what you're going to have. Look at how much most of these microfinance banks are making. So when you have a proper structure, sometimes it's about having a proper structure or consulting with people who are already in this space to draft for you a proper plan so that you don't fail in the business. So you can get involved in any of the scheme, not necessarily just focusing on farming, which is the production level.
Let's also look at farmlands and farming communities within urban centers, outskirts of urban centers, or it could be the next state. Is it possible where we have a kind of, if it's once in a week or once in 2 weeks or once in a month, whereby we have a farm settlement where people within the city, if they really want to get their hands dirty, can also get involved in owning farms around these particular locations where people manage it, but once in a while they also get there to go and be part of what is happening. Is it something that is practicable?
Definitely, definitely, it's something we're doing. Yeah, we have like 100 hectares, which it's an outskirts of Abuja, close to shares border between Abuja and Nasarawa, and these people go to see it once in a while. Like they call, okay, want to visit our farm. They go to visit. They see what their investment is doing. It's very possible. Like I said, it's about coming together, forming a cluster, and forming the community, and Not again, most of our investors in Nigeria are greedy. So they want to invest 1 million naira and get 10 million naira. That does not happen. In as much as agriculture is profiting, you must also be very careful so that you don't run into greed. Why many Nigerians run into Ponzi scheme is because they're ready, like the get rich, the quick rich, syndrome, get rich quick syndrome, something. So we need to look at it very well. It's very possible. The clusters can be formed, and then the management can happen, and everybody win. It's a win-win thing. The investors are winning, the persons managing the farms are winning, the laborers are also winning. So everybody in the ecosystem. So it's about us forming an ecosystem that is also sustainable with 5 years, 10 years work plan, not just this farm season and we are all gone. So farming is also something that takes time, and a system can be created. And like I said, I'm encouraging people to get into it, and also inviting investors to also come on board to make sure that we can produce enough. So we create those schemes. It's possible for us to create those schemes, and everybody must understand, the investors, the managers, the farm managers must be of similar mindset, not driven by greed but driven by results. Because there's a difference between greed and results when you're driven by greed or results. So it's very, very achievable and it's doable. We're already trying it.
Now let's look at agricultural research. Now let's leave Okon in Calabar. Let's leave Shegun that is working in World Trade Center. Let's leave Chooks somewhere in Abia. Now let's look at research. Most of the research being done in agriculture, be it from the schools or be it from research centers, how many of them do you think gets commercialized and some of these products get to farmers within Africa? Not just research after being paid for from funds outside Africa, result is gone. We're now looking at, okay, how can we start getting those profits and getting those particular works down into our soil here? How much of the commercialization happens here in Africa?
The distribution is limited. Let's say at ABU Zaria, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, we had a research institute that's NAPRI in Ahmadu Bello University, that it's about animal production. So the research is animal production, and our focus was on cow dairy products. So most of the yogurt we take in school then was from Napri. Then they moved to bread production, and students were consuming it. So sometimes it's about the scale of production. So the scale of production is not meeting up with the demand of the market. So after the research are done and the product is authenticated, maybe even that has passed through all the standard procedures, NAFDAC, SON. I think it's now for investors too to start investing in that sector for us to have mass production. So NAPRI is still somehow limited to Kaduna, Zaria, because Ahmadu Bello University is in Zaria, even though the product is good. So we need to now start saying, maybe government, I'm not just also remit it to government, private investors to invest in this, especially that this product have traction even at the location where it was produced. So we need to start having investors invest in this particular in these businesses for them to upscale their production. Then we can now start talking about distribution that is that is nationwide. Then we now also go further by exportation. So it's about investment now for products that has passed through customer validation, a market validation, and all of that. So I would start asking that it's nice now for investors to start investing in those business. Perhaps even the school, the lecturers themselves that have funds to invest. So lecturers can even come and form a pool of gather a pool of funds and invest in those business and scale it up and scale up their production.
We we have talked about individuals. We've talked about people in white collar jobs. People are talking about people that get salaries, good, medium. We're not talking about bad. Now let's now look at people that have spare money. Let's look at companies. Let's look at banks. Let's look at people that can pull up funds, organizations, groups. Let's target organizations and value chain within the agricultural sector, because if we need to get productive, then everybody needs to get in line. How can we start having these particular funds that are somewhere in the bank getting into agriculture and making money getting people more employed, and getting Africa fed.
Okay, like I tried to mention earlier, again, I'll go back to Ahmadu Bello University at Zaria, where we have NAPRI. So when we're talking about pool of funds, we have banks within this community. We have UBA Bank, which is directly opposite North Gate of the Ahmadu Bello University. We had Access Bank, not too far. We had First Bank. Some of these banks within this region. Now, the school can approach them again because they have a product that has customer validation. It's an institute, federal government, is a federal university that also have access to government certifications, easy certifications, especially that the process of this production of the product can be validated. So they can approach these banks. They can approach these banks with a bankable business plan, not just coming to the bank like, okay, I want money, because a lot of young people said they will tell you that they need funds. When we started my business, I started with $50. Now sometimes Nigerians, when there are things you see on social media, Nigerians take you for a joke. Like, I started my business with so amount. There's like, that is how motivate us and all of that, because they see that they think it is impossible. Every business have seed capital. No matter how much your seed is, it's a seed. Seed capital is a seed capital. No matter how little it is, it's not about how we're able to draw collaborations for you to turn these seeds into big adverts. So I would say that it's time also for these young people who want to get into agriculture to form cooperatives. Cooperative is another very good, easy way for you to access funds from these commercial banks, or maybe even from microfinance bank. So I also want to say very big thank you to what Sterling Bank is doing, funding cooperatives of young people. Now, as at 3 years ago, Sterling Bank, in collaboration with Mastercard, has funds for young people who want to get into agriculture. But young people are not applying for this loan because they don't have the requirement in terms of a bankable business plan. That is one. Then uh, ethics of work. Ethics for work. We want things all about on a bed of roses, and we're not ready to put in the work. Sometimes we want work. I would say sometimes that I want to make reference to when the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria said Nigerian youths are lazy. Lazy in this sense that it's not because we're not hustlers. We are mentally lazy. We're mentally lazy. Mentally lazy. Nigerian youths are mentally lazy. So they don't even know where to get what from. So these friends are there. It's about structuring ourselves, coming together. Okay, I have $50. Maybe you have land. Another person has another $50. By the time we pull these funds together, we do more. So it becomes share. We share cost of production. We share the risks. Then we also share profit. So we need to become a structure enough for these financial institutions to fund us. So we don't have that structure that can be funded, and that is why most of the times it seems that we can't have access to funding.
Ima, I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure having you on SOUQ Pulse. And each time I speak with you, I see hope. A whole lot of it. Thank you very much for being on SOUQ Pulse, Ima.
Thank you so much once again for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, to everyone that was part of this particular program for today, we want to challenge you. Africa has no excuse to go hungry. Africa has no excuse to go to Ukraine and seek food. Africa has no excuse to keep importing grains. We have no excuse. Zero, no excuse. It doesn't matter what the West tell you, whether you're having drought or you're suffering conflict. No. In their own conflict, they are still producing. In their own drought, they are still producing. So why should they tell you to slow down, take aid, and come to us and take food? We have no excuse. We have to sit up, take this excuse, trash it, and get to work. All of us are responsible. And it is only us that will find solutions to this hunger that is beseeching us. Help your neighbor. Be the prayer that got answered for someone else. And when you see laziness, don't tolerate it and don't help it with an excuse. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ. We are all getting our hands dirty, and the soil is where the seed will grow. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye.